The air inside St. Martinville's jail was thick with heat and silence, pressing against the cold stone walls like an invisible force. The air barely moved, heavy with the scent of sweat, dust, and something more, something stale, something final. The small cell barely held a bed, just a narrow cot bolted to the wall, its thin mattress doing little to soften the hard steel frame. The floor was rough beneath his bare feet, the chill of it biting into his skin despite the Louisiana heat. Willie Francis sat on that cot, staring at the cracked ceiling as if searching for an answer among the peeling layers of paint. His fingers traced invisible patterns on the metal bed frame, his mind drifting between memories of freedom and the suffocating reality of where he was. Beyond the thick iron bars, he could hear the faint murmurs of guards, their voices low, speaking words he couldn't quite make out. He didn't need to. He knew what they were talking about. They were waiting. Just like him. He had lived here for over a year, trapped in this in-between place, knowing what was coming. The days blurred into nights, and the nights stretched into eternity. He was only 17, but the weight of death pressed against his chest like an iron hand. The world had already decided he was guilty. The trial had been swift, the evidence thin, the confession forced. He had known the moment they took him that it didn't matter whether he was innocent or guilty. In St. Martinville, in 1946, in the Jim Crow South, a black boy accused of killing a white man had no chance. The system had not been built for him, it had been built against him. They said he had murdered Andrew Thomas, a local pharmacist. That he had stolen a gun, pulled the trigger, and fled. They said he had confessed, that the words had come from his own mouth. But Willie knew the truth. The confession had been forced. Dragged into a small room with no lawyer, no family, nothing but white men staring down at him, he had said what they wanted to hear. It didn't matter what he said, if it wasn't what they needed, they would beat it out of him. So he said it. And just like that, his fate had been sealed. The gavel had come down hard. Death by electrocution. Beyond these walls, the town whispered about him. Some spoke his name with quiet unease, others with satisfaction. Justice, they called it. A life for a life. No one had stopped it. No one would. Then came the sound of heavy boots, slow and deliberate, echoing through the hallway. Willie sat up straighter, his body stiffening. The guards were coming. The thick iron door groaned as it opened, the dim yellow light from the hallway spilling into the cell. Two men stood there, their faces unreadable. "It's time, Willie," one of them muttered. The words were soft, but they hit like a hammer. Willie swallowed hard and forced himself to stand. His legs felt weak, trembling slightly, but he refused to let it show. His father had told him once, a man don't let them see him break. So he wouldn't. The walk was long, though it was only a few hallways. Past rows of cells, past men who refused to meet his gaze. Some whispered prayers. Others turned their backs. The metal doors loomed ahead, leading to the chamber where death waited. And then, he saw it. Gruesome Gertie. The electric chair sat in the center of the small, suffocating room. Its wooden arms gleamed under the harsh overhead light, polished smooth from years of use. The thick leather straps hung open, waiting. Two prison workers stood beside it, their shirts damp with sweat. One smelled of whiskey. Willie exhaled slowly, steadying himself. This is it. They moved with practiced precision. The straps were tightened, binding his wrists, his ankles, his chest. The thick leather pressed into his skin, unyielding. The room was silent, but for the rustle of fabric, the clinking of metal, the sound of his own breathing, deep, steady, controlled. Then came the hood, shrouding the world in darkness. A voice, firm and final, cut through the silence. Pull the switch. The air cracked with sound. A deafening hum filled the room, the scent of burning flesh thick and suffocating. The pain was instant. Electricity surged through Willie's body, tearing through him with merciless force. His muscles locked, his teeth clenched, his spine arched against the restraints as the current burned through his nerves. Every inch of him screamed. Every fiber of his being was set ablaze by invisible fire. And then, chaos. The chair sputtered. The hum wavered. Sparks flickered in the dim room. Something was wrong. The pain faded, and his senses slowly returned. His chest heaved. His limbs ached. But he was still here. Still alive. A sharp gasp filled the room, not from him, but from someone else. The guards stood frozen, their eyes wide, their faces pale. One of them swore under his breath. Willie's throat was raw, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Take it off," he wheezed. "Let me breathe." Silence. He had survived. The execution had failed. They dragged him back to his cell, his body bruised, his mind reeling. The guards wouldn't look at him now. When they locked the door behind him, he was alone again, but different. Changed. The newspapers called it a mechanical failure. Some whispered a different truth. His lawyers saw something else, an opportunity. They took his case to the Supreme Court. Francis versus Resweber. The argument was simple: to execute a man twice was cruel and unusual punishment. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, the system would recognize its mistake. But the ruling was swift. A second execution was not cruel, they said, because death had always been the sentence. No mercy. No justice. 1 year later, they came for him again. This time, there was no hesitation. No stalling. No faulty wires. Just cold, efficient death. He sat in the chair, his breath steady. He was barely 18 now. A boy forced to become a man. A man forced to accept his fate. The straps tightened again. The hood dropped over his face, sealing away the world. The switch flipped. The current hit. This time, it did not fail. The town called it justice. The courts called it law. But history would remember it differently. It would remember Willie Francis, the boy who wouldn't die.